If you really are putting the time in and the effort, it's almost impossible not to make progress. You can't just like jump to the top, man. We gotta take the steps, and you gotta step on one step at a time and embrace that. Damn, man, I got the chills again. Wow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support, and thank you guys for showing love on every single episode. I have a guest with me today, a fellow creative of mine, John Westbay. How are you today?
My man, I'm good. How you doing, Avi?
I'm good. Well, thank you for the hospitality. We are in the studios where you create.
Yes, sir.
And I guess how I really wanted to start this off, to know a man or to know a person, we need to know their earliest context. We need to know the things that have shaped them into who they are today, especially, in childhood or, going into the teenage years. What was kind of like the influence of your parents on you growing up?
It's a good question. It's funny. Nobody asks that. And that is, that's how it all starts, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, funny you asked that. Well, my childhood was pretty good. It was great. I think there's this, the idea that the artist life is always, like this tormented soul. And, we all have our struggles. But no, my childhood was great. And, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot recently, like very recently. Didn't grow up rich at all. They definitely struggled, financially at times. They didn't give me a ton of, like material things, or even like didn't expose us to a bunch of like culture. But what they gave us, like me and my brother and sister, was just a lot of love. And as I've been thinking about, 11 years in, like what I'm doing and the love and the hearts and where it comes from. And I've been, as people ask me, like I kind of ask myself, and like just very recently, did I kind of come to that conclusion that, I guess that is where it comes from. That's what I was given as a kid, was a lot of love, not much of anything else. Like I have a great relationship with my parents, and I make fun of them a lot, like for the parenting that they did. They were young parents, but a lot of love. We got a lot of love. Yeah.
And I read somewhere that your mom worked in the school district,
yes,
and your dad was a truck worker.
Yeah, truck driver. Yeah, man.
Did that play any influence in terms of blue collar jobs, right? Were they very heavy on get this 9 to 5 or get this blue collar job? And
they gave us a lot of freedom. They didn't push us at all in any way. It was like we were made, again, we were given a lot of love, and we were made to feel very special, not only for my parents, but like my grandparents and my aunts and uncles. Like I was made to feel like so special, and just that whatever I showed them, they would like, get excited about and make me feel like I was so talented, or I always felt like I was the favorite, until I realized later on, like that was just, I think like all the cousins, like me and my siblings and my cousins, we all kind of felt like that, because they just knew how to make us feel special, and that's a gift. That's what another thing I've been thinking about more recently, as I now have like nieces and nephews, is to try to do that same thing like they did for me. And it wasn't because I was so special. It was because they were the special ones, and they knew how to like have that connection and make a kid feel special. And that's something, I'm learning now as I get older. And I'm trying to do the same way, for my niece and nephew. But no, my parents didn't push us. It was a lot of freedom. It was like, do what you want. When I finished high school, I was cutting hair, and they were like pushing me a little bit, like you should go to college. I'm the only one of my siblings and like my first cousins that didn't go to college at all. They pushed me a little bit there. But then when they saw that I was passionate about cutting hair, they like fully got behind me. And then kind of the same thing happened once I stopped cutting hair and I started painting. They like gave me some pushback, like you have a business that's successful, you're gonna like just paint. But as soon as they saw like how passionate I was about it, they were fully behind me. And like my number one supporter. So that's great to this day, which I appreciate.
What was it like growing up in South Brooklyn?
It was fun, man. It was great. I went to public school. That's one difference. So a lot of my friends that like I still have to this day, they went to private school, Catholic school. And I am grateful for the fact that I went to public school, you know, like so it's a lot of diversity, a lot of which there's not. Like my friends that went to Catholic school, everyone looked like them, you know, similar last name to them. They lived across the street, you know, and the public I love that about my school years in New York City. But the neighborhood is also very blue collar, you know, Marine Park, shout out. Yeah, I had a great childhood. I grew up across the street from Marine Park, which is great. I lived there, played basketball and handball, like literally from sunrise to sunset. Would get called back. Like my mom would yell. I could hear her voice. That's how close I was to the park. That was special. And yeah, man, I'm grateful from where I grew up. Yeah.
It seems just like hearing the loving parents that you had. It's something that nowadays it seems it's the complete opposite. You know, with some people that I know that have unfortunate circumstances where there was somebody that I knew that, you know, his mom died when he was like a teenager, and for example, somebody like me had never really had a relationship with my dad, so to hear that, right, to hear that the lovingness in your household and how much they really motivated you and inspired you to do great things, it's like a breath of fresh air, you know.
Yeah, man, I took it. I'm happy to hear you say that. And again, it's crazy that you opened up that question because it's something I've been thinking about very recently. I took that for granted, honestly. Like for most of my life, I'm like, of course, I really, for a while, I looked at it like we grew up kind of with nothing. Like we didn't. Again, we struggled financially. I was never exposed to anything like culturally. We never went to museums or art shows, or we didn't travel at all. Like I went on one vacation my whole life with my family, you know, until I was old enough to go on my own. Probably why I love traveling so much now. But I took the part that we did have, I really took that for granted. I figured, of course, you have parents that love you. Like that's what a parent, you know, that's what a parent does. And, you know, as I get older, I realize like I should not take that for granted. Not only should I not take it for granted, that's like the most important thing. And you know, what we should be most grateful for, all that other shit could come and go. And that a lot of times all that other stuff could do more harm than good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm impressed and happy you opened up that question.
Thank you.
Because I've been thinking about it like very recently. And I guess it all comes from people asking like where does the love come from? Like, what does it mean? What are the hearts? You know, what do they symbolize? And, you know, I've been asking myself like for years, and they will ask, like, 'cause my brother is an artist as well and does music, and they'll ask, were your parents creative? And I'm like, no, not at all. But yeah, man, it was the love. I guess that we were just made to feel special, and that anything we did, wow, that's amazing. Like, and I guess that gives you confidence, you know, to continue to do that as you get older. And, you know, they say the artist is the kid that never grows up, or that, you know, remains a child. And I think about that a lot. That's important. The girls that I'm involved with in my life don't like that part, or the girls that I have been. I made that sound like I'm involved with more girls than one at one time. The girls that I have been involved with haven't liked that so much, but I love it.
That was one of the questions that I was going to pose to ask, because I wanted to be able to ask that, because, you know, like the artist, I didn't think that when I see hearts, right, there's always like an intrinsic motivation that you want to spread love and positivity because maybe you didn't have it, or maybe you in the spots that you needed it, you didn't receive it. And one of the things that I wanted to be able to know, and like hearing it now, was why the hearts? Because, I guess you already answered the question, just because, you know, you've already felt it, but you wanted to feel that love that you felt, and being able to give it back to somebody that may have not felt it.
Yeah, man, I didn't know, you know, when this all started, it wasn't like a conscious thing. It wasn't like, this is what I want to do for this reason, and this is going to be my message, and this is what I want to put out there. And then like, it all kind of just happened. And again, it took years for me to look back on it and then kind of understand it myself and like unpack it and see where it came from. But, you know, yeah, it's like always doodling as a child, always was like just Oh, every class. Just always kind of like messing around doodling and then, but yeah, in 2013 started like painting on canvas, and then made the love like logo with the script L and the peace sign for the O and the heart and the E, like the Basquiat E, in the shower, like in the steam in the glass, and just thought it was pretty cool. Started spray painting it, but yeah, again, it wasn't like this grand plan. It's nothing. I didn't really have like this big intention behind it or even understand it for years until I started to, get asked that question a lot, and then I would ask myself. I guess, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the heart kind of took over and became a character and got eyes, and then just kind of, but it's all, I don't know, in a way I feel like I'm watching it happen just as much as like somebody else is. Like I'm not in total control of it. And I guess that's the way it is with art. It's not like a business where it's like you have a business plan, and you could write out the business plan and this is what it's going to be, and you could see 10 steps ahead. I don't think it should be like that. I'm sure some artists do it like that. But I don't know. For me, I don't do it like that. I don't think it should be done like that. You familiar with Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art? He spoke about the art of war.
Yeah. I did read that was a big book that inspired you.
Yeah, not a huge reader. I listen to a ton of podcasts and I like taking a lot of information. Not a huge reader, but that book I recommend it to everybody. It's easy. It's a short book.
Yeah.
It still took me like a month, but I give it to them. Other people finish it in like 4 days. I'm like, how do you do that? But he talks about that idea, and I try to live by it. I already did before, but hearing him articulate it and allowing me to understand it better, I try to live by it.
I read that, wanted to bring it back to how you were doodling. I remember that the teachers, I looked up that the teachers would take some of your work, but they never
homework, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That they took some of your work and they complimented it. They ended up complimenting the doodles.
So in 3rd grade, I had this teacher, Miss Owens, and we had this like state exam. I forget what it was called. I think it was the math test. I think it was PAM, P-A-M. And it was, like the big important test for 3rd grade, and your teacher doesn't grade it. Like the New York State grades it. And I remember I finished the test and I did a perfect Homer Simpson. I drew it, and I was like happy, like I was all excited that like some like big shot from New York State, not even New York City, from New York State was going to grade this test, and not only would they see whatever my math answers, but they would see this perfect like Homer Simpson that I drew. And my teacher, I guess, was like, she wasn't grading them, but as we handed them in, she would like flip through them, and she looked and she saw it, and she called me over to her desk, and she was like mad, and I'm like, that thing is perfect. How are you mad? And she was like, yes, it's very good, but like take this out now. Like this cannot be in here. This is a state exam. And she crushed my dreams a little bit, but she said it was good. She complimented it. So thank you, Miss Owens.
I want to go to a point in time that you talked about a little bit, the barbering. You opened up your barbershop in 2010 and you were doing that full time. What kind of, what was that part of your life like?
It was important. So I was cutting hair while I was in high school, just like some friends messing around. And then, when I graduated high school, I really wasn't that excited about going to college. So I started working in a barbershop, in Brooklyn, in the neighborhood I lived. The week I graduated high school, I worked there for 2 years. And then I opened up my own barbershop, 2010. So I was 20 years old. It was great. It is artistic in a way. It's very limited, which I didn't know at that time. I loved cutting hair. It gave me a lot of freedom. I saw my friends all day. I made my own schedule. I was able to travel when I wanted and, start and finish my day when I wanted, especially when I worked for myself. And you make good money. And, you're bullshitting. You're hanging out with the guys. And and the whole time I was working with my hands, so you're working on your craft. But again, I didn't know at that time how limited it was. You're doing the same thing over and over, and everybody wants the same haircut, and then like 20 times a day, and then eventually, it wasn't until I started painting. Once I started painting, and you know, you're able to do whatever you want to do. Like the freedom is exponential compared to, you know, cutting hair. Then cutting hair started to feel repetitive, and I started to lose interest. So real quickly, I like cut my hours in half, and then I stopped cutting hair altogether. But it was great. It taught me a lot of personal skills, like the business, which is important for artists. A lot of artists don't have like those skills, and it's a pretty easy business to run. You're not like taking care of, have to worry about inventory or all this stuff. But it was great. Yeah, I had like 12 barbers in there that worked with me, and it was great. It was important, and I feel like it makes sense now looking back, you know, that I probably wouldn't have got here without that. That was like, I don't know, a stepping stone in a way. That was my college in a way.
I'm a fellow barber as well. I learned.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I'm not like too good. Like I didn't have like years of experience, but there was a time in my life where I was cutting hair for a little bit.
Dude, I stopped cutting hair like before COVID. And there was like no barber culture when I was cutting hair. It was like, they used to call it like the dying art, because there used to be like back in the day when barbers would sharpen the blade on the leather and do like the hot shaves and stuff. There was like it was like a respected art form in a way. But then when I was cutting hair, there was not. And then after that, so between social media, I guess really social media, it makes for good content where like somebody could come in with a head that's a mess, and real quickly you could get like the process, and it's like very satisfying to watch. So, and then like barbers kind of blew up, and now they're like tattoo artists in a way, and they're getting paid since COVID. There's like barbers took a freaking hit during COVID. They're getting paid like double now. Like when I was cutting hair for $20 back then, I have the old sign from my barbershop right there. Haircuts for $20. Haircuts are $40 now.
Yeah.
So like in a couple of years, double your freaking income. It's pretty crazy.
Do you know how to cut your own hair? So you've been able to.
I never did. That was always the first question when you tell people you're a barber. Every so often, it's people's first question: you cut your own hair? And I never did, because we were in a barbershop with 10 other guys, you know, every day. So we would just take care of each other. But since then, since I'm out of the barbershop, I go to barbers out here, and they're just so bad. Like I hate it. I leave there and I'm like, they're bad. So I just learned, actually, after being a professional barber, I finally taught myself how to cut my own hair.
There you go.
Here we are.
There we go. That looks great.
Thank you, bro.
I was never able to cut my own hair.
You need in my bathroom, my medicine chest like opens up. You need the 3 mirrors. Like the one in the front and the 2 on the sides. And it's still tough because then everything's kind of in reverse, and like as you move right, it goes left, and if you go left, but I have like the muscle memory down from like what it should be. So, yeah, man.
The next phase of your life, 3 years, you started to pick up a paintbrush, and then you started to create artistically, and it wasn't until a conversation that you saw somebody else starting to paint, and you were like, why not? That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, my buddy Justin, who I grew up with, one of the few friends from childhood that is an artist. He's really a musician. He plays guitar, but I was at his house. He had these tiny little canvases, like this big, maybe like 6 by 6 inches or something like that. Excuse me. And yeah, he was doing these acrylic paintings, like very abstract, not figurative at all. And he's like, look, man, how cool is this? And I'm like, dude, that's fucking really cool. And he's like, yeah, man, acrylic paint, it's easy. Oil takes forever to dry. Acrylic dries real quick. I went and got all the stuff at wherever, at Michael's or Blick. And yeah, I was like, I need to start painting. And like that weekend, I think I went and I got some canvas, got some paint, got some acrylic paint, got some brushes. In the beginning, you get the cheapest material there is. You don't know anything, and you're like, why can't I make this look good? And it's because, the material sucks. But then you sit down and you're like, okay, what am I going to paint? And that's where like the freedom comes in that I was talking about. So you get all the stuff, and then you sit down and you're like, okay, what am I going to paint? And that was like I'll never forget that feeling. I thought that would be the easy part, But you sit down, it's like, what, you could paint people, you could paint faces, you could do some abstract stuff, you could paint buildings, you could paint a landscape, you could paint black and white, you could use a lot of color, you could do something abstract, something minimal. And to have that much freedom, and I decided something simple. I just painted like a face, like a woman's face. It was Valentine's Day, which is crazy because it's before I made the love thing, before I made the heart. So it's kind of like symbolic that my first painting was made on Valentine's Day. And I gave it, I think it was 12 by 12 inches. I gave it to my mom as a Valentine's Day gift. She still has it. But yeah, man, I fell in love with the freedom. And then I went and cut hair the next day, and I was, thinking like, all right, when I get home, like, what am I going to paint? And then I would just sit at my parents' dining room table. So I was still living home at the time. I was 23. And I would just cutting hair all day, and then I would go home and like wait for my parents to go to sleep, and just take over that dining room table and freaking paint. But yeah, that freedom, I fell in love with the freedom of being able to paint anything. There's no rules. And then again, that's when cutting hair, and then I would go to cut hair, and it would be like same thing again and again, and then you kind of feel like, who's the guy that pushes the ball up the mountain, and then it just comes back down. I don't know, some Greek guy, famous Greek story.
Would you always say that you were creative though? Like, do you always think that it was just in you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I feel like all kids draw, but I was always drawing. And, I did like sing in high school. Where'd you go to high school?
Westchester County.
Okay.
A small town. Okay.
So in New York City, in public schools, there's sing, which is like a play basically. I did that 3 out of 4 years. It was like the lead role my junior and senior year. Yeah, so I would say so. And then just always, yeah, with, cutting hair is artistic, working with my hands. I would say so, yeah. But again, I think not all kids, but I would say a lot of kids are. But it kind of gets like, I don't want to say beaten out of us, but it gets like suppressed or like pushed aside or like neglected. It doesn't get nurtured. And I remember being told, some of the teachers telling me, like, there's no, like, okay, that's nice, but you can't, this is not what you could do for a living. You have to like study in school. And I remember saying, I forget what teacher that was, but I remember saying one time, why not? Why can't? And they were like, it's like good luck. They kind of rolled their eyes, like, good luck, if it's like almost impossible to try to be an artist, a working, artist. And I think, a lot of kids buy that message, and they say, okay, we accept it. We believe it. And I think the people that say it, they don't have bad intentions. They're not trying to like shoot us down or shit on us, but that's what they were told. That's what they believe. And they think that they're giving us good advice to tell us not to go that route. But I'm here to tell you to do it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think there's something about it that, I don't know, it just doesn't rub me the right way per se. Who is somebody else that gave up on their dream? Who are they to be able to make you limit your own belief? And whenever you tell somebody something, or that's why a lot of people think like Kanye is crazy, or all these people, these visionaries, who are they to say that you're not able to do something?
Yeah, I agree. Again, I don't think, some of them I'm sure are just bitter freaking people that didn't get to do it themselves, but I don't even think that, I think most of them, it's not even a conscious thing to them like that, where they're trying to be like, well, I didn't do it, so I don't want to let this person do it. I think they're like, we believe, what most people believe. Well, I guess that's the artist, right? They don't have those limits, or they don't believe the social constructs, or they don't buy into them. But I think most people kind of do. And I don't think most of them have bad intentions, but Kanye, is, I guess, the greatest, one of the best examples of our time, of somebody that just doesn't, and you hear some of the crap he says. And he is, I guess, crazy in a way, but it comes, it made sense to me. It's crazy. It made sense to me almost immediately when I sat down and I thought about that freedom that I could paint anything I want. And almost immediately I realized, like, oh, this is why, like, artists go crazy sometimes because there's so much freedom. And I think, and you could kind of like dive into that. I look at it like an ocean. It's like the deep part of the ocean, and it's like so vast, and you could kind of float off, and then you're not like anchored in a way to the things that we all kind of agree on in society, and the things that make us like, I don't know, normal or regular or civilized. But I think this, yeah, it almost like I've learned that lesson very quick. Well, like the earliest version of it, because I continue to see it, years later. But I'll never forget that. And it's like scary, I guess, in a way, but it was exciting.
Yeah.
And I freaking was like, let's go. I like this.
So how were you able to? Obviously, your parents probably had a lot to do with the confidence that you had. But how were you able to instill that confidence with yourself at 30 years old, going into a brand new field? What were some of the things that you were telling yourself, or what was some of the things that you maybe heard or people told you at 30? You're going into a brand new field, and most people believe that that's too late.
Yeah. Well, I was painting, since 23, and thank God I was, because if I had to start painting at 30, maybe it would have been too late. So by the time I was 30 and like I was like full time, I had like 7 years of learning, meeting people, learning somewhat about the industry, and getting better at my craft. Becoming a better painter, which I still am to this day. But I said before that it's got to be some level of like delusion, I think. Where it's, I don't know if it's like confidence or delusion or somewhere in between, if there's a fine line. But I look back at early paintings, and people will like tag me in them sometimes. And I'm like, oh, don't tag that. Don't show anybody that. But I felt confident enough at the time to put it out. And thank God I did, because again, these are like the steps. You have to go through those steps. You know what I mean? And I relate it to jiu-jitsu in a way. It's like being a white belt. It sucks. And a lot of people, I guess some people just don't want to do jiu-jitsu, right? In the analogy. And that's fine. But some people do want to do jiu-jitsu, or I guess on the other side of the analogy would be like they do want to be an artist or creative. They want to be a black belt, but they don't want to, what prevents them is that they don't want to be a white belt, and being a white belt sucks. You go in there, you're like brand new, and you're looking around, and everybody in there has more experience than you. You're the new person. You're in like the shitty white gi with this white belt. You don't know anything. It's very intimidating, and it sucks. But yeah, you have to, it's impossible to become a black belt without being a white belt. You have to go through the steps. There's no other way. There's no way around it. Every single black belt, and again, I'm not only talking about jiu-jitsu, I'm talking about the creatives as well. It's just an analogy that I use, personally, but every artist, every successful person that we see started, Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast ever, he started doing a podcast where a few people were listening, it wasn't millions of people right away. And that's what sucks. It's easy to think about, it's easy to think of ourselves doing something when it's already rolling and it's already huge. I want to have this podcast, and it's going to be easy to do it and feel confident about it when thousands of people listening or millions of people, or when I'm a painter and, paintings are selling and I'm doing good and I'm in galleries. But it sucks in the beginning when you're painting and not one gallery is representing you. They don't even want to talk to you. You try to talk to them and they're like, yes, we don't have time. They don't even want to hear you. They don't respond to your emails. You're not selling work. That part sucks. And that, I think you need confidence to get through that. I didn't realize at the time. Looking back, I definitely didn't think it was delusional at the time, but looking back, I think it was some level of delusion that I had to have the confidence, because the painting sucked. And also at that time, you're like, you have lower standards. You have to, if I have my standards now, knowing what I know now and with the ability that I have now, back then I would never have the confidence to put that out, because, I see it as it sucked. But at that time, it was like the best thing I made. So it was good enough to put out. And then it makes me think, what am I going to think of these paintings 10 years from now? As I get better, I will get better by then. Absolutely. You know, will I look at these and kind of have that same cringy feeling? Hope not.
Yeah, I kind of ask myself that a lot too. I guess something that I really struggle with is like the dance between delusion and the dance between like the early steps in the process, right? I truthfully believe that I will have a very, very successful podcast and I'll be able to do it full time. I aspire to reach Joe Rogan levels. And then there's a part of me where it's like, yeah, but I'm dropping a YouTube video long form, and it only got like 50 views, or it only got 100 views. And then it's so discouraging in that process because it's just setting up the equipment, and, you know, the light bulb that I tried to do just went out, and not having the financial funding to be able to have a better setup or a nicer setup. And then there's the discouragement on that, where it's just kind of like piled and it's like a sandwich, you know, but in that same breath, you feel confident, right, with what you're putting out. You feel confident with the work that you're doing and the research that's going into it and how great the podcasts are becoming. You know, when I first started out, I thought they were pretty shit. And now I still think that I don't even think they're that great now, you know? And it's that dance between delusion and discouragement that I truthfully do struggle with. And when you're not able to see any monetary value, no sponsors are hitting you up. And, you know, I have some buddies that, you know, shout out to The Journey. They're doing really, really well. And then there's a part of me that's like, I'm so happy for them. And then there's a part of me where it's like, damn, but when will it be my time? You know?
It's tough, man. It's, I relate to everything you said there, every bit of the way. Yeah, there wasn't one part of that I didn't relate to. It's a lot. It's not as easy as just believing, you know, and saying like the law of attraction. I love that. I love The Secret. You ever watch it or read it?
The Secret. I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah,
now.
It's some people like love it and swear by it. Some people think it's bullshit. I think it's somewhere in between. I think there's a lot of value in it, but it's not only that. It's not only like I believe I'm gonna be this great painter. I'm gonna have this successful podcast, and then if we believe it, we're gonna attract it. That's only one of the ingredients. There's a bunch of other ingredients, and that's like having the confidence to get through that discouragement because it's gonna come. Hard work, a lot of hard work, you know, putting in those hours, being persistent, being committed, being smart and savvy and figuring out how could it's not only the content, what about like the networking part? How could those relationships are important that you spoke about where you have those guys from The Journey where maybe they're a little bit ahead of you. They could help you out and you could look at them and they could give you advice. And I have those relationships as well. Mm-hmm. And then there's somebody else on the other side that's maybe just getting started and they look at you like this kid Avi already has it going on and his podcast is already dope. And they're going to ask you, what camera should I get? What microphone should I get? You know, but it's staying on. It's, I relate everything back to jiu-jitsu. It takes over your mind. So if you get started,
definitely
be prepared for that. But, you know, they say the black belt is just the white belt that didn't quit, you know? A lot of people quit along the way. And I guess it almost has to happen. I think the universe has to shake some people off. You know what I mean? Otherwise, like everybody would be exactly what they want it to be. Everybody would have a podcast with 1 million viewers and listeners. Everybody would be, whatever it was, the rock star or the artist or, you know, it's these things are easy in the way because anybody could start, right? You could just start your own podcast. So there has to be difficulty in some other way, and that is I'm losing my train of thought a little bit, but I start thinking so much this is what I apologize for. I meant to say that. I meant to start with this. I apologize. I'm a painter. So how I like to speak is in my paintings. I love John, and this is, I think, the first podcast I'm doing without Big John, because when I get to that point where I like hit a wall mentally, it's not even I hit a wall. I just have like too many thoughts, so I can't get them all out. He just takes over, and he is so good at just like he could have like nothing to say, and he just boom, boom, this and that, yada, 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 boom, boom, boom. And he packages it up, and I look at him like, how the hell did you do that? You didn't just, like, thank God you just took over, because I got real quiet. So shout out to him.
John Scafiddi.
Shout out to for you for making me do this without him here.
The uncomfortable.
But yeah, you know what I mean? The universe, it's like it has to shake some people off. Otherwise, everybody, because anybody could start. So it has to be hard for you to reach the top. And I don't know. Not everyone's gonna make it. Some people are gonna quit along the way, but some people will. And I think, yeah, it's important to, again, have those relationships, to hear people, like, I never thought of stand-up. I never thought of the art form of stand-up, but like hearing Rogan, and when he has the comics on, his comics that are huge now, but to hear their beginning stories and me being able to relate, like, it's different medium, but it's all the same crap. When I hear them talking about going on the road for $20 and he used to drive, 3 hours to upstate New York, and he couldn't even get a hotel room there because then he would literally be negative money, because he would only get $25 to perform the open mic. And then he would drive back in the same night. So he would do 7 hours of driving, and like, dude, that comes with, that's what it is. That comes with the territory. And it's like, it's the mountain. You got to climb the mountain, man. Yeah. It's and when we get on top of the mountain, it feels amazing, and there's that view, but it's not everyone gets up there because it's tough, and you gotta climb it.
And then you realize there's another mountain to climb, and then you realize there's another goalpost, right. There's another
and
hill.
That's a great point, because that is the truth, and then we have to fall in love with the journey, man. And then we realize, like, all right, and then you get on top of the mountain. It's such a good point. You said it's so true. And again, I could relate it to jiu-jitsu, because I used to look forward to getting my purple belt. I'm like, when you're a white belt, you just want your blue belt. You're like, I don't want to be a white belt anymore. So then you get your blue belt, it feels great. They say that actually out of all the belts, your blue belt feels best, and I could relate to that. And then, but I'm like, all right, blue belt's not even good enough. I just want to be a purple belt. Once I'm a purple belt, I'll feel like good enough, and I'll feel like I could at least, I don't know, I'm at least not just the blue belt, or like not just a beginner white belt, blue belt. So then you get your purple belt, and I got my purple belt, and I remember having this feeling, and it was like I was sad. And I remember it felt good, of course, but it was also sad, because I remember thinking that this was going to be it, and once I got it, I was going to feel great. But I remember being like, this isn't it, man. This is there's still a whole mountain to climb, like you said. And then it made me look back and say, like, the reward is not like, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The reward is the ride there, man. It's like every day going there, the friends I made, rolling, learning little things, winning those little battles, getting that guy that like always gets you, and getting better, feeling that improvement, laughing out like in the locker room after, and you're like bullshitting with each other. And again, the friends you make while you're in there, going to grab a bite after, and like the relationships and the whole community of it. And I realized then, like, wow, that is the pot of gold, and I was missing out on it because I thought I just have to get there, and there's going to be the pot of gold, and it's like it's in the future. And I kind of like wasn't enjoying it as much, then. And that always stuck with me. And again, the jiu-jitsu part is maybe not relatable for everybody. It's like the silly sport where we choke people out, but the analogy is we could apply it to life, hopefully. And I do, in my art career. Again, it's the same thing. Once I get the gallery, once I do a show there, then that's going to feel really good. But I really try now to like enjoy it while I'm in here, man. Every day, just the whole grind of it, the whole process. When I'm painting, I got my dog in here and the music's on, and I really, really try. And it's hard. We get lost, we got lost in the sauce a lot, and the stress, and then, things, this has to be done by this time, and then you have deadlines, and you got and we could get lost in it. But I really do try, and I've gotten better at it, and I hope I continue to get better at really enjoying and realizing that even if I do whatever, hit my next goal, or hit my next like value goal, or sale goals, price goal, or a show here, like, yes, that's going to be fun, but the everyday part, that's the beauty, and that's what I'm trying to enjoy.
That's something that just came to mind just now is the younger version or the previous version of yourself would be ecstatic to do what you're doing now.
Yeah.
That version of self that was, just wanted to be able to get a show or just wanted to be able to get exhibit or just wanted that one viewer that would be able to watch and be like, oh man, like just somebody watched it,
Yep.
somebody liked it. And then you realize as you go on throughout that journey that you lose sight of it. You lose sight of that version of self that just wanted that one viewer, that one exhibit, or wanted to sell one, and it's greed at the end of the day and just desire for more. But something that at least I'm learning, and maybe you are as well, is that more doesn't exist until you're able to realize that you have just enough.
Well, it's the balance, right? Because we need that we need that to stay motivated to keep going. Otherwise, we don't want to be like, well, this was my goal back then. I guess I did good enough. I could just stay here. Mm-hmm. I guess I got enough views, but we don't want to, on the other side, never be happy. But we hear about like these highly successful people, these overachievers, the Tom Brady, the Michael Jordan, and it usually comes with some level of, never being satisfied. And like that sucks in a way. But I really try to focus on balance. I want to I think from the people, it's hard to like really like self-reflect and analyze yourself. From the people around me, I hear that I should enjoy it more and that I should be more grateful or remember the earlier version of myself that would be very happy right now. But I think I have a pretty good balance, and I want to stay motivated. I want to, there's a lot further I want to go, and so we're going.
They say success always comes with a price, like the Jordans, the Tom Bradys, it always comes with a price. And sometimes that price it's pretty big. Sometimes the sacrifices, the relationships that got sacrificed, the family time that got sacrificed, the time missing birthdays, missing your own birthday. There's always a price. What's been that price for you?
It feels, I'm pretty confident in the thought that this is what I want to be doing. So I don't feel like I paid some huge price. This is what I want to be doing. Again, the act of it while I'm in here painting, it's really hard for me to do something if it's not what I want to be doing. This is why, like, in school, if it was a class I didn't care about, I would fail, or I would, like, drop the class, or barely pass. I would just do enough just to pass. But the classes that I was interested in, I would do great in. Like we spoke about a little bit earlier with the gym. Like I would get in shape for the summer, but like it's really tough for me, I give people a lot of credit that work jobs that they freaking don't enjoy, but they do it because they have to do it and they show up every day. I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So this is what I want to be doing. And this is, so I don't feel like I paid a huge price, but on the other hand, I'm 34. I want a family. I want to have a wife and kids. And that part between painting and the hours that this demands and jiu-jitsu, which I'm not willing to give up, which is a lot of hours, just traveling back and forth alone is 6 hours a week. I guess that's been the price. Relationships. Yeah.
That's where I was going to go.
That's been the price so far, but I'm a man. We have time. We don't have a biological clock ticking. And I don't want to, that's what I was saying a little bit before. I'm not willing to completely like trade everything because I just want to get my career as far as I could go, and I'm willing to trade everything. And like, I'll give my life for it.
All right, we're back.
We're back. I
I
have the bladder of a little girl.
hope one of these days I don't have to look over everything, so I can have somebody else look at it, and I don't have to worry about the technical issues.
Squire, tend to the battery.
But we were
We need a Jamie, bro.
Huh?
Get you a Jamie.
a Jamie, a Jamie. We were talking about Vegeta, but I don't know. Did you say if you didn't have any other points on that, if you can remember?
I remember I was just saying intention I think is very important, and self-awareness. I think weed is probably very abused. Like I did for a long time, just smoked every day just to get high. You smoke pot?
I did, like, it wasn't often though, but
Yeah.
I definitely have you tapped into psychedelics?
Yeah. So I think those two things, but even weed for like people that don't even want to get into all that. I think even weed once in a while is really good, just for like self-awareness. I feel like I could tell people that never smoke pot. I could tell like, yeah, that's why you have zero self-awareness. I think like when we get that feeling, when we get high, it happens to me still. I'll get high and I look at my page and I'm like, oh, like everything's like cringy. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I want to start deleting things. And you get these feelings of like, you get some anxiety and you're like, damn, I'm like focusing too much on this. That's my point. So I'm focusing too much on this. I need to put a little more energy into like the family. I gotta like call my mom tomorrow. I gotta text my niece and nephew. I think that's important. And I guess some of us could do it without it, but I think a little anxiety from weed or an edible or a little psychedelics, if you want to dive a little deeper and get a little more anxiety, I think it's good, man. And I think, yeah, it scares people away, unfortunately, but I think if we could get through it, we use it for good, and I do.
Yeah, I definitely, when I did have some experiences, I definitely noticed that I do have underlying anxiety, whether it's masked or
It's normal.
It would just feel weird, like, you're like, for me, I was just in my head so much. Overthinking and just worrying about the most irrelevant things. For what,
Dude, and I never do. I wouldn't know what anxiety was, never, like as a kid, thank God, never, in my sober life, I've never experienced like anxiety or anything like that other than psychedelic drug use. But I think it's good. I think it shows me, like, honestly, it made me feel bad for people that have to deal with that shit regularly. It's very unfortunate. But again, I think there's just like tools. I think again, yeah, people like overuse them. People use that like mushrooms, for example, as like a party thing to go to, and whatever, do what you want. That's fun. But I think it could be used for something better than that.
Yeah. How do you keep yourself inspired? And how do you keep yourself growing constantly?
Good question. How do I stay inspired? I haven't felt like a writer's block in a very long time, like, or anything like that. I think, people ask like, what's next? Like, in the work, one of the galleries recently asked, like, what's next? Like, what's like the next body of your work you're thinking about, or what's next for the career? And again, like I spoke about earlier, art is different. It's not like a business where I think we should be thinking consciously about this is what's next and we should write a business plan for next year. I think what I like to say, what my job is to like just keep myself in a good space, make sure I'm healthy, make sure I'm eating good, make sure I'm not like consuming garbage. And that's like food garbage, like media garbage, television, radio, music, podcasts, relationships, people that are just negative and bullshit and gonna like just distract you and bring you down, like partying, alcohol, like almost completely stopped drinking alcohol, like 97%. I'll have a drink here and there. And I think that is our job. Like once we're a professional working artist, for me, anyway, I can't speak for everybody. Everybody's different. But for me, my job is to keep myself in a good place. And when I do that, I don't know, things flow. Things flow naturally. And again, I'm almost observing it. It's almost just like happening. And I'm just kind of riding it. I'm on D&D. I'm on D&D, bro. Sorry.
Have you ever felt to me, a creative, somebody that comes in here, hours upon hours on a time and having this creative brain, have you ever felt misunderstood? Or have you ever felt, was there any times of loneliness where it was like, damn, just nobody understands the vision or the brain that I have or the creativity that I have?
Y'all ain't on my level, son. No. Recently, no. I think when I was younger, and not even so young, up until, I don't know, even my 20s, I did feel like that. And speaking about this with other people, with Big John specifically, I think feeling that way is just part of, the human experience for everybody. I think it's common. I thought it was just me when I was young, but I think we all kind of think that. And we all have our own reasons to think it. My experience was like, most of my friends went to like Catholic school, and I went to public school. So most of my friends weren't in, like, I had my school friends, but most of my friends were in a different school. And then they like all play sports and were like super jockey football team, captains of the baseball team and stuff. And I did sing, like I said. So they would like make fun of me for that and roast me for that. But then when I was in sing, those kids didn't fully embrace me because they were like, you're not one of us. You're like the jock kids or something. So they would like kind of have the shitty attitude towards me, like, because I guess that they felt like I had a shitty attitude. And then I was on the wrestling team for a year, and those two things were different. And still to this day, when I feel like in the art world, people like, there's, I don't know, all different, I guess, factions of the art world. And to some people, they look at me and, I don't know, they would look at me, especially if this side of me with the bad ear, and they would look at me like some jerk or like a meathead or a jock. And then when I'm in class and I'm with like the real jocks, they look at me like, oh, they'll make fun of my shorts, like the hearts that I have in my shorts, and they look at me like I'm an artist and laugh at me. So yeah, I guess we all have I used to think it was like just me, that I never fully felt like I fit in anywhere. But I love that, man. I embrace it now. I don't want to be I don't want to be like cookie cutter, you perfectly fit over here and that's it. Like, I don't want that. I embrace it. I think we need to embrace it more. And, when we do feel that way, and that's, we're unique and we should be different. And, I think, to quote Kanye, who you mentioned before, it's more of the superpower than a detriment. But when I was younger, of course, it makes you feel uncomfortable and you got to deal with that and get through it.
Big John has came up twice in this podcast.
Big John.
I asked him this question, and I know how important his relationship is to him with you. How important has John been?
I could use you today, bro. Freaking getting lost.
You don't need.
You're
fucking being a rock star right now. He's gonna watch this. He's gonna be like, "What the hell?"
He's like, "I'm so proud of you. I taught you well." No, he's the man. I love him. I love you, bro. Again, I don't have many creative friends. He's not a friend like from childhood. I mentioned Justin earlier. He's like the one from childhood that I have that's creative. John, I met later through the creative stuff, but he is from the neighborhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood, 4 years younger than me. For a while, a few people were mentioning him to me, and they were talking about us doing a collaboration. I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I'm doing this love thing. He's got Uzis and machetes. I'm like, I'm not seeing it. But then I met him, and I heard him out, and I just fell in love with him. He's the man, he's like one of the kids I grew up with, where he's more like just hanging out, watch a baseball game, watch a football game, tattoos and whatever. But I could do creative stuff with him. So I appreciate the hell out of it. He comes here, we'll have whole days together where we'll design stuff, and like the shorts we did together, and we do a bunch of clothes together. Also because just professional, like functional aspect of it. The production part of clothes is tough. It's a whole other thing. I don't, he handles that. He has that down. I get to just like design the stuff, and then I hand it off to him, and he deals with screen printers, manufacturers, getting it made overseas, seeing the sample. No, that's not good. We need it bigger. It's got to be an inch bigger, half inch bigger. That color red's not right. Like that's a whole other thing, man. So professionally it works. And yes, him as a friend I love. And it also then, I don't know, he sold me on the idea. And then I started to see it. It makes a lot of sense that he's this war guy and I'm the love guy because it's like peanut butter and jelly, we always say, you know? And it fits together better, you know, in that way. Like people show me artists now, oh, this artist does some love thing or they do something with the word love or with hearts. And I'm like, that now makes no sense to me. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this person? Like, we're already doing the same thing. I'm like, fuck out of my lane. Get out of my way. But no, he's the man.
Shout out Big John. How have you been able to combat self-doubt?
Good question. How do I do it? How do we do it? I don't know how we do it, but we be doing it. I feel weird about referencing and mentioning jiu-jitsu so many times, but I cannot help it. It has, I feel like it was the balance that I needed in my life for me personally. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, but I know that there is something for everybody like this. It might not be jiu-jitsu, but there will be something where they fall in love with it. If it's easy to go to, they're not dragging themselves to go there. They want to go there, and it's going to help build their confidence and feel stronger physically, mentally, and all this stuff. So yeah, I would say jiu-jitsu has helped me big time. You know, 7 years training, feel more confident, and again, seeing it's something very simple, but seeing, like we were talking about a little bit before the camera started rolling. It's not a coincidence. We have those friends that maybe are doing something and we're like, damn, why are they kind of popping off a little bit right now and I'm not? Did they get lucky? Maybe they just must have got a little bit lucky and I just haven't got the luck yet. But no, man, in jiu-jitsu, you see, if you're going 3 days a week and that other guy, he started after you, but he's going 5 days a week, he's going to pass you. He's going to get better than you. And then you gotta, it's again, it's such a simple thing, but we like, I don't know, we don't see it sometimes. And when you have to see it in black and white and you see it and you're like, oh, okay. And then that has helped me. You know, I learned that lesson in jiu-jitsu, but I apply that to my art career. And then when we put the work in, I think that's what gives us confidence. I'm putting the work in. I'm putting the hours in. I'm working. I'm not slacking off. I'm not partying anymore. I'm not drinking. I'm not, doing this and fucking off. I'm doing the work, so I feel confident in that. You know what I mean?
What's some advice that you would give to? So this is going to be a generalized question, but it's going to pertain to young painters, young artists, but really anybody that is trying to do something that's bigger than themselves or greater than themselves. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's got this dream and they have this vision, but they don't know how to execute it?
Good question. I think about this a lot because I want to be able to, help somebody out, or like the younger version of myself, for the people that are, there now. Gotta just do it, man. We have to have the confidence to do it. Even if we don't feel great about it, I see I talk to young artists. Oh, let me see your work. You have an Instagram? Oh, I don't have the stuff on my Instagram. Yeah, I don't post it. What, because, and it's tough. How do you get somebody to feel confident to do it if they don't really feel confident? I don't know. But we have to embrace the beginning of the process. Like we said before, being a white belt, you have to embrace it and have confidence that, this is not I'm going to get better. This is not the best version of myself right now. But it's going to get better. And I have to, but you can't just like jump to the top, man. We got to take the steps, and you got to step on one step at a time and embrace that, embrace the idea that that you have the ability to, and you have feet to take the steps, and that, and yeah, man, that's the biggest thing that I see. The self-doubt just like prevents people from taking the steps, and we don't want to take the step because it's like, that's the low step. I want to go on the high step. It's it's not how steps work. You know what I mean? You got to go on the low step before the next step. And, but yeah, have, I guess, some level of delusion. Study, man, study, talk to people, study the people that you are seeing, say, okay, this person, you know, is where I want to be in a couple of years from now. Can you reach out to that person? Can you talk to them? You know, what are they doing? Like business wise, it's, you know, things change so much with social media, and there's different, you know, like the whole art world was turned upside on its head, that you like had to go through like and sell work through a gallery, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and forever before that. Now it's like artists could get creative. You could have your own website. You could like market directly to people. How could you market? How could you like interact with people, you know, and stuff like that, and think about more on the business side. But yeah, man, learn. I would say learn from people. Look at who's doing it, and how could I learn from them, and how could I stay focused? What could I cut out of my life? How much time can I really put into this? And if it's not a lot, then don't expect much out of it. But I could cut out all this bullshit. I don't need to go and party anymore. I can't cut out this job because I need to pay my bills. So this is like this 30 hours a week or this 40 hours a week, whatever it is, I need to survive. So, okay, that can't move. What else can I cut out? Do I need to watch every show that's on television? I talk to people and they watch Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Suits, this one, I don't know, every freaking show. And it's like, how do you have that much time? You know what I mean? Can you cut that out? And if you cut out all that stuff and again, have the intention and be deliberate with your time and conscious of it, and put it in, it's almost like we said about Matthew before, if you really are putting the time in and the effort, it's almost impossible not to make progress.
No pun intended, becoming 1% better. The little steps.
That's it. Yeah.
The little steps.
Yeah, man.
What's something that you want to become 1% better at?
Everything I'm doing. Everything.
If there's one thing, because I know that you want to become a better person in every aspect, but like, what's the one thing that you've been like, you know?
The most important thing to me in my life is my career. You know, I want to just continue to grow, continue to work with, you know, more galleries, bigger galleries, in new places, in new cities, in new countries, and get to, you know, live my life through this. And I already am, you know, like a full-time painter, which is amazing. And it's already, I think they say like 1% of artists are able to do that, you know, and not need something else. That's the most important thing to me, and I'm working at it every day.
There's one more question that I want to be able to ask you. I've been asking a lot of my guests this recently, but I think it's an incredible thing, because I like to sit back and tend to reflect. If you could just close your eyes for a couple seconds and visualize the younger version.
Am I literally closing my eyes?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And
Father.
And think about the younger version of John, and really sit back and.
How young?
Let's go to the most turbulent time in your life.
I had a big head. I grew into this head. Still big, but imagine when I was a young kid.
If you could go back to the most turbulent time of John, the most stressful version of John, and you could just be able to sit down and, you know, imagine I'm that person, right? And when you open up your eyes, what's something that you would want to tell him? Would you want to tell him that you're proud of him? Like, what's the one thing that you'd want to tell him to reaffirm that everything would be all right?
Damn, man, I got the chills again. Wow. Yeah, I would tell him, all right, so let me think, first of all, how old that person is. Okay, the most turbulent times. Most turbulent times. I don't know, I guess. Let's just say, let's say when I first started painting. Let's say 23 years old, when I was trying to figure it out and I didn't know how. Fuck. It's I would say just stay on the path, follow, trust yourself, have confidence in yourself, and what you want, and trust the process. And I guess I did, though, you know. So it's hard to even answer that, because I guess I did in a way. Like I wonder more now, like, how I did it, and I'm like, how the hell did I do it? Because those paintings sucked, you know. They were not good. But I would say to be patient with yourself, and there's gonna be a lot to overcome, and a lot of discouragement, and a lot of those nights where you're like really doubting if you should be doing this, and if you're wasting your time, and are you being foolish right now, and are you just prolonging, you know, having to go and figure something else out. And the answer, I guess, if you say the answer is what you want, if you say yes, then the answer is yes. But if you say no, and that this is what I want to do, and I'm going to continue on it, then the answer, then that's, it's almost like, you know, what is the Yoda quote? He who says yes and no, is they both right? Something like that. But yeah, stay on the path, trust yourself, work hard. Stop drinking. I wish I stopped drinking alcohol earlier than I did. Stop drinking. It's a waste of time and a waste of your health.
Thank you, John.
Of course, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming out here.
This
was cool. I loved all your questions. I loved how prepared you were and the homework you did.
Thanks.
That was, definitely the most prepared. I appreciate that. And these conversations are great, man. I appreciate them because, again, it makes me ask myself questions and think about the stuff that I don't think about. I get caught in the momentum of it, and I'm very much in the momentum of it. But when, like I said, I've been thinking about my parents, you know, because that's from people asking me, you know, where are the heart's from, where's the love from? So I appreciate this. This was, you know, I get asked questions, but this was like the most intimate, personal version of that. So I appreciate it.
Of course. Where can the people find you on social?
Instagram, my last name, Westbay, Westbay. I get asked still how I came up with that. And I tell people from my daddy to my last name. That's it. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Twitter. It's really just Instagram. My website is withlovebywest.com. Get on there, subscribe, and I only send out emails when something drops, shirts or prints or whatever. No bullshit emails. And that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support, and thank you guys for showing love. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This is the 1% Podcast.